a voluntarist from Arizona who's doing a lot of work demolishing judges and lawyers in their own field. So, Mark, could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, well, I've been helping people defend themselves against bureaucratic attacks since about '96, and from what I learned by going to court myself, and it's a continual process that seeing what works, what doesn't, what's effective, what's not effective, what may be true but not effective, and so you kind of take what's effective and discard what isn't. And I wrote Adventures in Legal Land. It was based on my personal experience. Pretty much everything all the experiences that I describe in the book really did happen, and it's all real. And some of the people have actually been on the show. And from there, doing that, I started doing the radio, and other people heard me, and I had the website, and so I started helping more and more people. So it went to where I was not just helping people in the U.S., but also Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Europe, English speaking anyway.
Nice.
And it's basically just helping people do it themselves instead of spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a lawyer just to screw them in the end anyway, which is something that just happened to someone yesterday. They were supposed to have made a deal where, and I didn't know about this because with the lawyer, because I don't recommend people use lawyers for anything, but unless you're really up against the wall and you can't speak well. But the deal was supposed to be a year. The judge, did his own thing and gave him 5. So, well. Right. So that's what doing what an attorney did. So it's just using basic logic also, and really looking at what the situation is, stripped out from an anarchist point of view, of course, and like from the Spooner mindset, and using that perception of our anarchist perception of the world, and using that to defend against a bureaucratic attack. It's just a way of stripping through all the spin and being able to reframe it in a more objective way, so that other people, let's say a jury, can say, the prosecutor, he's just a lawyer spinning the truth to make this guy look bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like, I think most voluntarists understand, that we debate with our peers, we debate with our family, friends, people you meet on the street. But most people, for some reason, maybe they don't consider debating with, like you do, lawyers and judges, right? Which is basically where you take the same arguments and you bring it into that. Would you say is that accurate?
I would. It's accurate. Only that the only thing I would just take a little bit of issue with is that is debate.
Okay.
It's something that when I'm just asking questions. So I'm in a spirit of resolution. So I just want you to help me understand your position, and then we can pay the fine and we can go home. Of course, when you walk through the process of trying to get me to understand, you're not going to be able to support your argument, and that's why a lot of these things get tossed out. So what happens? The debate word comes up all the time. Mm-hmm. Debate and argue, which is basically like a kind of a straw man thing that these agents do. So you'll ask them, well, what evidence do you have, in fact, that your laws actually apply to me? Well, I'm not going to argue the law with you. I'm not going to debate the law. Whoa! I didn't do that. So that comes up all the time. But I believe in with the anarchist perception, or with the scientific, anarchist, scientific, rational. When you look at the situation for how it really is, and you strip out the spin, then you can just go in and you can ask questions in a Socratic way, and be able to strip that false perception of legitimacy that they enjoy, that so-called they seem to enjoy a moral high ground.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
Right, and so what I do is always engage in questions in court and out of court to resolve whatever problem is being presented to me, and we just want to ask questions so that we can come to a resolution. It's just that by asking the questions and staying on point and identifying logical fallacies and getting to just really what their position exactly is, they know it's untenable, and that's why it usually will go away, or they'll respond in a rage.
So it seems like when I watched a few of your videos, and you start off with the central question, which is what you just said. Prove to me that the laws apply to me. and not just not just because I'm here, but give me evidence, right? And so if they say the Constitution is evidence, do they sometimes tell you that?
Well, I know that the operating presumption is, and this is you. If you go to the website, you can hear dozens and dozens of call of shames. Nobody is going to turn around and debate or disagree with you or me or anyone else when we say that the way all governments, not just U.S., it's not just the lunatics in Long Island, all of them operate under the single operating presumption. If you're physically in China, Chinese law applies to you. If you're physically in Long Island, New York law applies to you, or Arizona, where it happens to be. They all will agree with that. So I start, and that's where we have agreement. Okay, so I understand your initial position here is that you have jurisdiction because if I'm physically in Arizona, then your Constitution and laws apply to me. And well, yeah, of course. So that's kind of the Socratic method. So you understand, and you're both in agreement with each other. With this is my I don't like to say opponent, but this is the agent's position. So I have agreement. Now it's time to deconstruct that. I'll start asking questions, how and why questions. I want to get more data, and then when I get a different position, I want to confirm. Okay, so this is your position, and then ask further questions. Mm-hmm. So when you're a bureaucrat, though, and you're doing it on a foundation of lies, it doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that many questions to uncover the fact that their argument is not based on any facts. It's not based on any logic or any kind of rational thought.
Yeah. But have you had people tell you, or lawyers or judges refer to the Constitution as being proof?
Yes. But well, let me give an example from not too long ago where people would look at them as some kind of authority, because I think the more they're considered an authority, the harder they fall.
Okay.
And so this guy, Nicholas Court, is a deputy senior attorney general in New Hampshire. His job is to argue in front of the Supreme Court. I will not take away that the man is probably damn good at what he does. Mm-hmm. And others are going to say, wow, they're going to put him up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So they won't just say, well, the Constitution. They'll say, because the Constitution says so.
Yeah.
And now, so if you listen to the recording, I'll say, well, so let me see if I understand your position. The Constitution applies because the Constitution says so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Isn't that circular logic? That's not really answering my question. Yeah. Again, I keep the burden on them instead of me making an affirmative statement. Isn't that circular logic? Now, they'll disagree because it's their argument, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, how many people are going to put out forth a fallacious argument that their entire livelihood is based on and then agree that that's fallacious?
Yeah.
So I put it to them in the form of a question, and if I have to, then I'll change the context and say, well, if I said my rules apply because they say they do, would you accept that? And of course, they won't. Mm-hmm. So what Nick Court did was when Nick Court, the Attorney General, says it's authoritative, right? It sounds really good, but when some schmuck like me from Long Island says the exact same thing, so the law applies because the laws say so. Now it's starting to dawn on them. So he plays the history card. Well, Mark, it's not just because it said so. It's because the history that went into how it was created. So I'm an anarchist. I understand how these things work. So my follow-up question. Let me see if I understand you now, Nick. Is the history you're talking about the fact that everybody in New Hampshire is forced to pay you? And that's where he decided I gotta go. I gotta hang up on this guy. As a senior deputy attorney general, and I'm not. I mean, again, he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
He applies the law to people every day in front of the Supreme Court. He's a damn good attorney. You can't take that away from him. Mm-hmm. I don't think much of attorneys, but how can someone like me, with no formal legal training whatsoever, zero, some schmuck from Long Island, I grew up in Selden, not too far from when you guys are, and I still talk like that sometimes. The reason, it's not because I'm an expert and that I know law better, or it's not. It's because I can look at things as they are, more as they are anyway, mm-hmm. and I could just ask some questions, and I don't accept any sacred cows. And that's the thing. As anarchists, we don't typically accept sacred cows.
Yeah, yeah. I guess as a lawyer, you're just taught to accept that the law applies because the law applies, and then you go from there, right? They never question that initial position.
Right. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I have brought into legal documents the fallacy of its turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
Right. And so I did this graphically, and I did it in the book where they'll say that the Constitution laws apply. Well, okay. Well, where's your facts? Because that's an argument.
Yeah.
That's all it is. When someone says, and the cops do it every day, but they're willing to kill you. Unlike, I mean, most senators aren't going to actually kill you, but the cops will, and it's based on because they so believe that hey, if you're here, the laws apply, and I can do what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just an argument.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry,
Okay.
I just lost my.
Oh no, I was just saying, the circular reasoning that it's written the law applies because it's written there, right? So when you're in court, you bring up these logical fallacies to them. You say, no, that's argumentum ad baculum. You tell them that in court, and do they recognize that as a?
They do. They don't like to actually accept it. So, well, sir, it's